What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing another video today. I'm recording this on Thursday morning and wanting to give you a little bit of an update sort of on the Rostermania sort of side of things. There's sort of three sort of teams I think that are very much kind of in flux right now, although I guess the London situation is maybe a little more cemented, but I got some updates on that for y'all. So we're going to talk about OpTic, we're going to talk about LAG, and we're going to talk about London. Bunch of rumors over the last couple of days, going to break it down for you, some ideas I have. So let's dive in, starting with OpTic Texas. All right, so yesterday some teams, about 5 of them or so, started playing the game again, running organized team scrims as they get ready for Major 2. Now, OpTic Texas were not one of those teams, and so a bunch of people on their squad, I know Dash, you went live a little bit later in the night, but Scump was live in the afternoon, kind of answering some questions. Kind of answering is sort of the key word there. Basically, like, we're supposed to be scrimming now, but, right now our team stuff isn't really set. I'm kind of paraphrasing sort of what he said. Some people seem to think, oh, like they're, their team set. I think what I'm hearing behind the scenes is they're still trying to figure it out. But there are two kind of rumors that I think started over the last couple of days, and I want to talk about those and maybe the validity of them. All right, I think the first rumor we're going to talk about is the rumor in regards to Huke, and I think this one kind of started earlier on yesterday once just sort of rumored LAG teams kind of surfaced. Things kind of kick-started later on last night when, in response to sort of an Upper Deck tweet tagging a bunch of people in some of the trio and sign cards they got, Illy responded with an XEO whole gift thing. And so I think people were speculating, oh, does that mean that Huke is coming to OpTic? I actually kind of see some validity in this rumor. Now, I want to really put a disclaimer. I have not heard someone on record say to me, hey, OpTic seriously thinking about this player, they've contacted LAG. None of that. This is pure conjecture right now. As soon as I hear that, I'll let you guys know, but this is pure sort of kind of thinking through this process of all the remaining options for OpTic. Kyler has played, if we kind of talk about sort of pros and cons, starting with the pros, Kyler has played with Illy and with Shotzi in the first year of the CDL Modern Warfare 2019. And as you guys probably remember from that team, they had kind of a mess start. That's back when Shotzi was dropping 0.5s. In the beginning, playing a weird role. They ended up winning the last LAN in LA before COVID hit, and then they were the best team at the end of that whole year. They ended up winning the online champs in Modern Warfare 2019. They ran it back in Cold War. Things didn't really work out, and they ended up dropping Kyler about sort of halfway through the season. But they have experience teaming with him. They've won that ring together. And even Rambo Ray was the coach for them for about a year of that squad, because I know he joined sort of in the middle of Modern Warfare 2019. So there's a lot of experience with Kyler on the squad and sort of familiarity with his personality. And I think we could have at times seen the best of Kyler in the last year or so. And I think Major 2 is a great example of that. When they pulled up to Minnesota and LAG kind of was in a weird-ish sort of team situation, they ended up kind of being the best team at that event. They got really hot in search. And I thought that Kyler played amazing, especially in a respawn, especially on Gava 2 at that event. Tuscan as well at times. He was just unstoppable. And that was a Kyler that we had seen back in AW, a little bit of World War II, just sort of an unstoppable train, winning all his ones, playing his life really well. But I think as we start to talk about sort of the cons of this move, I think at times in the last couple of years, Kyler has been kind of inconsistent. I don't think that's fair to say. And I think a lot of it doesn't necessarily come down to his ability to win gunfights, because his gunning is still pretty good. I think where he's been getting in trouble when I talk to his ex-teammates on, say, LAG last season, what they say is, great kid, but decision making and sort of learning mistakes and not making them again is a real difficulty for him, right? So what a lot of players, I think, sort of get upset at times in the league is, a situation happens in scrims, first time thing happens, figuring out what you want to do in that situation. Okay, we move on, we figure it out. Well, Kyler has been one of those players in recent years that when that happens, he doesn't necessarily learn from the situation, and then it happens again and you make the wrong decision. And again, you make the wrong decision. And that, I think, really frustrates some more veteran players that are sort of used to people doing a good job learning and kind of absorbing information. I think one thing that we criticized Kyler a lot on the Flink last year is I'd watch a lot of LAG play, and he would be the last one off a spawn. In obvious situations, say on Gava 2, where they're spawning defense on control, and they need to hold that seaside point, and he doesn't pick up the pinch, they get pinched, they lose their defensive round. I saw that way too often in those types of situations with Huke last year, where he's just sort of breaking their overall team rules. So that's sort of your two kind of major pros and cons with Kyler. I think for OpTic, they're in a situation where there aren't a lot of good moves, at least short term for them. And so this might be one of the better ones if they want to explore it, just purely on what they can do in the short term. It's a low risk, high reward potential play. The high reward being like he joins and he's just back to that Kyler form that we remember from a couple of years ago. But if it doesn't work out and they need to make changes after Major 2, or, you know, it's a slower process. I don't mind this for LAG. You're kind of, or for OpTic rather, you're kind of trading the Dashi problem, and we don't really know necessarily what it is specific to why this team change is happening. You're trading that set of problems in terms of Bruce's sort of work ethic and sort of thinking around the structural rules they want to set for the team. To Collar's sort of inconsistencies is picking one ant option to another ant option, and this won't be the better of the two. All right, next up we have the rumor about Beans, and I don't want to spend too much time on this one because everybody on Boston has pretty much denied this, and he was scrimming with his academy team yesterday, but there's a whole hoopla in the last couple of days about Beans being in Frisco and with the sort of supposed Snapchat location. I don't know how real it is. Everybody denied it in this situation. He hasn't necessarily come out and denied it, but his team has. So I kind of see like why this sort of rumor sort of started. It kind of makes sense for OpTic when you think about it on the surface, right? Like he's an AR player. He also can run the sniper. He's a dynamic talent. He's got kind of like all of the things that Dashi kind of does, but he's more of his sort of raw, sort of hasn't proven his CDL kind of level, and sort of if it sort of feels like a like for like swap. But you know, for me, like it seems like this one was just, I don't know, flavor of the day. But you know, if I hear that it's a real thing, obviously there'll be questions. You know, what was Boston doing the last couple of days when they were denying this thing when it was a real potential conversation? But at the moment, I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's wishful thinking, and doesn't really make sense for Boston to let him walk, especially with how kind of their team played at Major 1. And I know like Big Wake was sick, but there are some cracks there. I do think that keeping Beans would be wise for Boston for potential later moves in the year if they want to contend at champs. So that's really the OpTic situation. I'll keep you guys updated as I hear more, but right now nothing super firm. Just those are kind of two meanish rumors over the last 24 to 48 hours on that front. All right, next up we have the Los Angeles Guerrillas situation, and where this netted out yesterday was a series of, I think, sort of breakdowns from CDL Scrim Intel about where their roster is at this moment. And I think at this moment is sort of the key phrase here, because I think they're in a little bit of a trial situation of trying to figure out, okay, amongst all the players we have between our pro team and our amateur team, what is it for that we want to run on the pro side? And we've got some time to figure it out. So right now, it seems at the moment they are running an RC's Assault AR duo with Exceed and Joe Deceives sub. I think that roster's okay. I don't know if the Alec Assault AR duo, when push comes to sub, is going to be quick enough to really achieve any aspirational goals they have of a championship down the line. But I like the Exceed Joe Deceives SMG duo. It's an interesting one. But again, I think in terms of this roster and my sort of overall thought process about LAG at this moment, at least probably for the next like 7 to 10 days, is you're probably going to hear a couple of different lineups out of them where they try to figure out like what works the best considering the state of the game and sort of what they want to achieve. But this is what I think their current thinking right now. And the knockdown effect is this is sort of their academy team at the moment, as you see on the screen, which is what people have seen in Scrim so far, which is Diamondcon, Spart, Neptune, and Noisy. So again, this one can also shift as people kind of go in and out of both lineups. Not that bad of an amateur team, to be honest. Probably a team that would be very dangerous when we start talking about CDL, you know, Challengers Elite Season 1, like all that stuff. But again, you know, a lot of fluctuation expected here. None of this is set in stone. I think we'll be hearing about a couple of different teams over the next week and a half. All right, the final team we're going to talk about is the London Royal Ravens. And you might be really confused looking at your screen. Well, what does the Elevate amateur roster change have to do with this one? Stick around, I'll explain it. So Elevate made these changes. They obviously placed second at Raleigh. In the open bracket, they were pretty good. You know, even on the pro side, like this team looked like one of the better amateur squads that sort of played through the tournament. And unfortunately, they have made a roster change with Gizmo and Harry leaving the team. And this is who their new teammates are, F. Dot and Furious, and they will play the EU Elite Stage 1, at least at the moment. And I think interesting to me is sort of this tweet from Denza after the situation saying, just so everyone knows, our team did not choose to split up. There were several reasons as to why this happened. And one of them, and then he made a joke about hairline, yada, yada, yada. I think, look, the Elevate team played really good, and I don't think they would have broke up for a reason other than probably London starting to think about building their roster out and probably putting Harry and Gizmo in a place to come over to the States on a substitute contract, start grinding challenges there, and eventually get called up maybe down the line. But I'd take an educated guess. That's probably what's going on in this situation, because I couldn't think of any other reason to Elevate would have broke up. And I would say there's actually probably a pretty good set of moves for London. You know, they had a pretty lackluster Major 1 cycle. I think ASIM was really the lone bright spot, but I think they are a couple of changes away from being a real contender, even for qualifying for champs, which I think would be really disappointing if this London team did not make it there. You know, I could see a world where maybe it's some combination of either Giz or Harry, ASIM and like Nasty, or ASIM and Scraps, and I don't know what the other 2 or 1 players are, but it would give London a really good kind of set amount of talent to make sort of a good combo of 4 players going to the back end of the year. I like the potential move here for London if that's what's going on here, because I can't really honestly think about any other reason why Elevate would have broke up. So I'll dive in on this one further for you guys, and as I hear more information as regards to this potential change, I'll let you know. But I'm trying to connect dots here, and I think they're very much connectable, so we'll see what happens. I think one other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about at the end of this is something that I saw on Reddit in my Twitch chat yesterday, and I'm literally going live right after I record this video, and I'll probably see it in my Twitch chat as well today. And that's a lot of OpTic fans saying that the season's chalked, that they're wasting Scup's final year, yada, yada, yada. To that, I say everybody needs to slow their roll. At this point, if you think about it, we've already played an event, and we will play another couple of weeks of league matches and another event before like the first week of online matches started last year. I just want people to think about how much the season has shifted and how early on in the year we are, with champs coming up really in the beginning of the summer. So when people come in and say, well, the season's shot for OpTic, you know, they're doing this, this, and this, there are a lot of times for them to make roster moves. We have seen teams that come together late, like in LA Thieves last season, that go on and win a championship. And we have seen teams be a super contender, like what happened to Toronto Ultra when they made the Zinni change. And I'm giving you just 2 CDL examples, and there are other prime examples from like CWL and prior eras like MLG eras. But my point still stands that there is a long road ahead for this OpTic team. There might be short-term bumps with the squad. They may not have the best in Major 2 cycles. They have plenty of time to make quality changes and get enough practice and qualify for champs and do something at the end of the year. So I want everybody to just sort of take a deep breath. There's going to be peaks and valleys. It looks like they're heading into one of those valleys right now. But if they manage this right, they're going to peak well at the end of the season. So everybody just needs to take a chill pill. But let me know in the comments what you think about all of that. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more. We're going to keep, I think, covering a lot of this Rostermania stuff over the next week. We got a Challengers League qualifiers, I believe, coming up next week. And then we have matches coming up the week after that. So I'm excited. A lot of Call of Duty content coming for you on this side of New Year's as well as on the other side. So stick around. And as always, guys, we will see you on the next one.